Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Today is our special guest day, where we will hear from a friend of the ministry who will share their insight and stories on truth in this chaotic world. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Guest Thursday, and Kathy, we have a very special guest, actually, in your neck of the woods from
Yes.
East Coast, New Hampshire, New England, and Dom DeLuca from where actually are you located, Dom?
Right now, I'm sitting in North Conway-ish, New Hampshire. We have a place up there we cross-country ski, and then I live where my office is in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, so right near Providence.
Oh, neat. Okay. So are you sitting out on your deck there with the snow behind you there?
I told my wife I was going to put a hat on and make it look good. I've done that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it would have been.
That's what it looks like.
It would have been funny to put a hat and a coat on, and Dom says he doesn't mind the cold, so.
But that is indeed the backdrop. If you were to look out your window, you'd pretty much see today.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And then Dom and I were actually yesterday we were on a call with his C12 group we were just walking together in the scriptures, which is, we talk about abiding and God's will, and it was how does a group facilitate helping others, discern God's will, and that was kind of fun, wasn't it, Dom?
It was great.
Go through that. Yeah, it was really fun, and you guys got a great group. Where do you guys meet, by the way, when you're meeting?
I was visiting the Newport group because I had a trip for my group, which is in Providence, but the Newport group is kind of cool. They meet at the International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty fun.
Yeah, well, I've been there actually.
Right?
That's right. Well, it's on the what they call Mansion Row.
Yes.
So it's a magnificent place, and to get to see the mansions, and they're all publicly open, so you can go visit them. Have you ever been there, Kathy?
I've been down to Newport a few times, and in fact, I'll go again this fall. That's where the New England C12 annual event is down by the Newport Tennis Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. It got changed, but
yeah.
Oh no, I hadn't got that message yet. I was all about that. Come on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we'll still go down there.
Been down there once before, though. It's nice. Yeah.
And hey, Don, by the way, Linda and I are coming out. One of Linda's desires of her heart has been, I really like to, from her perspective, it was I'd like to have a house on a lake, and it's like, okay, why, and I'll come, and she talked about it, but we know something about that is don't go try to search it out yourself, just let God take it. Well, last year we actually were in New England and with Scott Cornell, and then he called us, and he didn't even know that. He just called and said, hey, my neighbor at the lake has a house for rent in the summer.
On Winnipesaukee.
Would you like to look at it? Yeah, sure, and so we talked to him, and hey, if we did it for a couple weeks, several weeks, could we get a good rate and all that? Yeah. And so we're renting a house on Lake Winnipesaukee in the last week of July through the last week of August. So we're gonna come and visit people and be with Rick Ferris group and come and visit his group, and so
you're gonna hang out with Dan and I.
We're gonna hang out with you guys. So I expect you still to have your Christmas stuff.
It is down now. You don't get that wish.
Oh man!
See it in January though.
Well, Dom, we're just excited that you're here. And first of all, why don't you share with us, how did you come to know Christ in your life?
So I go back to 13. I remember seeing a Bible. I was part of the Catholic Charismatic Renewal, and I remember seeing a Bible that said I was baptized in the Holy Spirit some date in 1973. I was 13. Kind of wandered away as a teenager would, but I was working at an ice cream sandwich shop, and there was a waitress there, and I asked her out. And the condition of me dating her was that I went to her coffee house. It was one of the first Christian coffee houses in New England. So I went, and her mom worked there as well as her grandfather. I was all three of their bosses, but I went to the coffee house, and that's ultimately where I accepted Christ. It was I was a musician. I'd been a musician since I was 12, playing in church, playing at school. It was Christian music. It was early rock and roll. It was some of the stuff you listen to now to go, are you kidding me? Larry Norman, Randy Stonehill, that kind of stuff, the Jesus Freak movement, and
Love
just
it.
loved it. Just absolutely loved it. And accepted the Lord there. Was baptized in Newport Beach, Second Beach in Newport, shortly thereafter.
That's
Uh,
cool.
the girl is not my wife. My wife is my wife, who I met at the coffee house. She was one of my groupies. But the girl Sharon is our kids laugh about it because they're our best friends. I was the best man at her wedding. Her husband was the best man at my wedding.
Oh,
My
cool.
kids joke that
That
my
is
dad
awesome.
my dad. I have prompt pictures of my dad with your mom, that kind of stuff. But it was um, but that's where I met my wife. My wife was a lovely Minnesota girl. We met one day. It was her birthday, and she was going for a bike ride, and she was by herself. And I said, nobody can go for a bike ride by herself on her birthday. So we went for this ride, and we were really good friends for 2 to 3 years. And she was going to move back to Minnesota, and I was going to help her move. And we fell in love, and she decided not to
Mm,
move. Her going away party, they gave her gifts, and then she never went away, and they let her keep it.
I
She was a
love it.
nurse at a hospital. So yeah, so we've been married. It'll be 40 years this August.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Beautiful.
congratulations.
Where were you when you were a teenager growing up? Where was that? What city was that?
It was Norton, Massachusetts, right near, not far from where I live now.
Okay.
My dad still lived in the same house. Yeah, so
And
it was.
what kind of instrument did you play in the
I'm a
music?
guitar player. I first place. I joked about this. First place I ever played was St. Mary's Church in Norton, Massachusetts. One of the first songs I ever learned was "They'll Know We Are Christians by Our Love," which I joked turned out not to be true. But
I will say,
yeah.
Rich,
So
have you heard him firsthand? Have you heard him
Yeah,
sing and play guitar
we
yet?
did. We were at a
Okay.
retreat, and he joined Tom Ewing and Dave Dunkel
Yeah.
on the guitar, and
I love hearing him play.
it was really fun to add that your capability and your skill to that worship. It was terrific, and we did not play. You'll know us by our love, though.
no.
That's kind of neat. And then
I've been leading
what?
worship since I was 12. From ministry point of view, leading worship since I was 12, involved in church, all through, from the time the coffee house till now. Been serving as worship leader, uh, right hand, man to the pastor as far as getting things done, helping execute things in the church. Recently, we did an abiding 3 week teaching.
Yep.
So really excited about that,
Awesome.
and the whole abiding. I call it the discipline of abiding because I felt kind of funny, what to call it, and because it really is a discipline, and trying to show people the value of that and the fruit of that.
Yeah, I bet.
That's beautiful.
And how when you met your wife at the coffee shop, how old were you?
22, 2022. Yeah, it must have been 2021. She came out in Minnesota. It was a Christian coffee house. So it was music, rock, Christian music, and terrible coffee, and then maybe a preaching, and again terrible coffee, but cookies. I think there were cookies and pies or stuff like that.
Well, that does it right there.
And we always do good cookies
Now,
and pies, right, in the church world.
were you at college then, or were you actually working then? What were you doing when that was going
So
on?
I have which maybe we'll touch on a little bit as career, but I have a high school diploma, C student, terrible student, and the two courses I took in college were night school, community college, business management and accounting, and failed them both. So I'm self-taught.
Mm.
So I was working partially at the restaurant, where I had met the Sharon and Sharon, but then through my dad, I was able to get a job at Foxborough Company in Foxborough, Mass, a big company, which was instrumental in my career and ending up owning a business.
Yeah.
I mean, my God business story would be a whole nother podcast for another day, but it's God's hand has been in it,
Yeah.
right from the get-go.
Yeah.
That's
Walk
so
us through a little bit of your career and lead us to what you're actually doing now, because I know you are a business owner. So And you don't have to go through in all the detail, but kind of walk us through your history of your business career.
So I worked at Foxborough as a bench tech. I trained myself on the electronic. I did go to some electronic school, actually. Forgot all about that, but the worked my way through and then got into a systems position, which is where I really excelled. It was looking at whole systems that controlled like whole power plants and paper mills, and really resonated with that. And but the recession hit, so I had to move on to another company, which was in what they temperature control, and did really well as a service guy. Did so well as a service guy, they promoted me to a sales guy. And about in 1991, September 17th, 1991, apparently the first day of recession started, because 2 years later, Peter Jennings said we're 2 years into a recession on 2 years. The reason I know that is because on that day, I got a phone call from, the company was called Barber Coleman, a temperature control company, and they said, "You're a golden boy. We're keeping 4 guys out of everybody in the whole United States, and you're one of them." And I said, "Oh, great! So you're going to make $80,000 a year." Back in 1991, I said, "Oh, great!" So I went in and asked, "So what is it? What does it look like? What is it? Well, we can't give you all the details, but what it turned out is basically I was going to get on a plane on Monday and come home on a Friday." And I said to him, "I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have a wife, children, and ministry. I can't. I'm not going to do that." And they said, "Well, just tell them you're going to do that, and find another job." This is HR telling me this, and I said, I'm not going to lie about it." So they unfortunately they made a phone call, and I teased the guy all the time. They made a phone call, got somebody else to accept the job, and then they came in and they fired me. Well, they were divvying up the territory into, they were taking the big accounts, and then they were leaving everything else, and they were going to hire a representative or a distributor for the rest of the territory. So I made a play for the territory, and they gave it to me. I was the only guy in the whole United States they gave a territory to set up. I had no money. I had a partner who was getting fired too, and so we started our company September 17th, 1991, and we are 30-something years old now, 32 years old. Didn't know what I was doing a long time, but again, God things all along the way, and it brings me to where I am now. We did $8.5 million in sales last year, distribution some of it, commission some of it, and we're a leader in our industry in New England, and we are told we're one of the best. So
that's
God
awesome.
has, yeah,
What
been a journey there.
what exactly does your customer company do? What area field are you in, and what do you do exactly?
So a lot of it's high temperature. People insult me if they say thermostats. So we hang in the 2,000, 3,000 degrees centigrade range. We're doing a lot with the EV market. There's a lot going on right now in taking the power off of a solar grid and storing it somehow in a non-battery type thing. We do pharmaceuticals. We do a lot of aircraft stuff, military stuff. We do food. We get to, I won't say because I don't know where this is going, but there's some food I'll never eat again because I get to see how it's made. So we get into a lot of different areas that where people manufacture things, whether it be food or space shuttle tiles, a lot of stuff, cool stuff. So a lot of it's very interesting. Meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah, that is cool. How many people you got working for you?
There's 6 of us, so we're lean and mean, and that's thanks to a lot of stuff from C12 to the whole buying process, how we can pull what we pulled off last year off. But yeah, amazing. 6 people.
Oh, that's neat. And tell us about your kids a little bit. How many kids you got? What's going on with them?
So I have three children. My oldest is Amanda. She works at a high-end food market on Nantucket. She's met Bill Belichick a few times. She's met Amy Poehler. Her famous story is Amy Poehler, please come to the front desk. You've left your license here. Bill Belichick was getting a loaf of bread last week or two. The day of the Super Bowl is kind of funny. He said, "Did you say hi to him?" Well, he didn't look very happy. Well, yeah, because he wanted to be at the game that night, I think. But
does he ever look really happy though?
He is. I know people who know him and work for him, and he's really a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. I think that's just his facade. So she's a barista now at the place. They have Starbucks in there, and she's she's a really good worker, really conscientious. My son was working for me. He went to Full Sail as a sound engineer after that whole market disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
So he worked for me and then got off self-taught. He's a programmer right now at Toast, working his way up. That's a POS for restaurants. Anywhere you go, you might see Toast when you check out.
Interesting. Okay.
And all that. But he's also doing some video, using his degree and from Full Sail. He's doing a lot of the audio for a good friend of mine who does Christian movies. There was a film out not too long ago called The Abraham Accord. It was a 4-part series. He did all the audio for that.
Oh, really? That was good.
Yeah, even he does a lot of that. And then my daughter, my baby, she's 31. She's her claim to fame is she got us a granddaughter, but who is my 5-year-old grand princess. But she also works for me, and cool thing there is we through C12 was encouraged to bring her to GLS, so I did. And something sparked in her with leadership, got her into key players. We got into EOS, and she's my COO now. She's just found her destiny. I think her calling, which is totally, I was not expecting that. I've tried not to force or bring my kids into anything because I didn't want it. I wanted it to be whatever they wanted to do, and it really resonated with her, and she's really doing great for me now.
Beautiful. How are you enjoying your granddaughter?
Oh, no, there's no words to explain that. I mean, no words. It's just awesome. It's a life-changing thing. It's just having, last night she told me she wanted to marry me. So yeah, no, she's just a sweet little girl, and we just love her to death. It's amazing.
Yep. Yeah. By the way, Kathy, sometime, and maybe we'll have you back, Dom, is we want to do a little series on the role of parenting and grandparenting in the social dynamic, particularly given the nature of the world today. That'd
be a fun series to do.
I'm sure as you look at it, Dom, is that you see that little 5-year-old with the innocence that she's got, and she knows what she's about ready to face as she gets into the whole just school and friends and stuff, and it's beyond belief of what is going on in the world, which is, and the neat thing about God is He said, well, don't be surprised by it. He said, by the way, throughout history, it's not a whole lot different than throughout history, and I that's why I built the family to actually move that into a beautiful spot, and it doesn't matter what the world does, So, and I know you experience that.
And by the way, I chose this time for her to enter the world for purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right. And I know it's a joy. They must live then close to you. You must get to see her quite a bit, right?
8 feet away. They live in our basement.
That's excellent.
We have coffee time. Most mornings. Even today, she was happy to have coffee time that didn't have to end because she didn't have to go to school. So yeah, she's been great. And then my wife, along those lines, my wife has always worked in kids ministry and really had a passion for introducing kids to worship and seeing her with Lily and during COVID, we had moved into a new house, and fortunately we did because we were able to bring our granddaughter and our daughter into our house, and there was enough space. But because daycares were shutting all that, my wife got a good 2 years with my daughter as a Christian, and my daughter for a while getting a little bit out of it now, but would say we got to say grace, and she'd be okay. Who's the prayer leader tonight? And she'd point one of my kids and say, "You say prayers." So she was the evangelist in our family. Even at school, they were asking something. I forget what it was, something, and they were talking about people's birthdays on holidays. And she meant, "You mean like Jesus at Christmas?" And, so he is good.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing all that. Tell us a little bit about your experience with, moving into learning about abiding, and what does that look like to you? How do you spend time in the Word and journaling and processing just what God's saying to you? And share a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah, so I mean, just an amazing. I'd heard a year and a half being in C12, the word abiding, and thought it was just their language for prayer. But it wasn't their language for prayer. It was something totally not expected.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought about how to answer that question. And the other day at C12, we had a verse, and I said, "That's it." And it was a simple verse. I might not have never even thought about it, but it was Proverbs where it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Which
Mm-hmm.
that's abiding. All roads, I tell people, all roads lead eventually to abiding,
Mm-hmm.
and your path will be straight. And I have to say, since I've been abiding, I mean, as a business owner for 30 something years, I mean, I've moved around. I mean, my path has been dead end, wrong way, long way around, and I'd say the abiding process has straightened that path. And so that
Mm.
that when I saw that the other day, it was like, that's it. That if there were one word, it would be, it's straightened my path. It's been an incredible journey
Mm.
of learning, listening. I say, when I've told this to other people, it's not praying, it's listening. It's getting, led to a place, and then journaling and listening and hearing things that God will tell you that are just, it's like being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and having unlimited call of friends. And
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
uh
one. I like that one.
and and I'm taking advantage of that. So I get up, I love, we used to pray, God, I'm not sleeping, I'm waking up at 5 in the morning, and I started abiding. I'm saying, God, do not let me sleep past 5,
Mm.
because my routine is to get up. I've got a couple good venues to do it in, and put a little bit of Christian instrumental on. Start with a little prayer, get in the Word, and then just start writing things down in a journal. And the whole journal process is just incredible. To a year and a half ago, my total journal was probably a napkin, maybe. But I've got almost 2 journals filled up now with stuff that God has spoken to me, life-changing
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and the ability to one, go back and recall things God tells
Mm-hmm.
you. I mean, some of this is red letter stuff. I mean, this is the voice of God, and to the years that he may have told me stuff that I didn't write down, I don't remember.
Right.
To be able to go
Right.
back and see that is just an incredible uh, tool, blessing.
Yeah. And
But
we need those reminders, right?
we do. The other thing too is, one of my processes is, if I have a question for God, I will write a question mark, and then I will write down the question. And it wasn't too long ago, I was doing something, I was journaling, and then I just felt compelled, go back to a week ago, and I went back to a week ago, and like, I asked that question, you just answered it. I mean, to go
Mm.
back and see the things that he answers, and to have that as, as part of your walk, stored, where you have access to it, and
Mm.
just an incredible part of the discipline, of the process that we do. Um, so, the journaling piece has been an amazing thing. The 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 learning things that, like, my common question is, even to my pastors, they don't tell you this. Why haven't I been told this?
Mm-hmm.
About some of the things in the Word of God, the Bible, and some of the uh, digging deeper into it,
Yeah.
the truths that are there, that
Mm-hmm.
were either glossed over, or I think misrepresented. My favorite one is, there's a part where, you're supposed to put the coal on the guy's head who offends you, your enemy, and I mean, historically, I mean, when I've asked people, what do you think that means? Well, it's gonna bring shame to the person. Well, that doesn't seem right, because God wants you to love your enemies and all that. So as I dug deep in my abiding process, I realized that the culture back there was that people would walk around with hats when they didn't have money or food, and by putting a coal in there, you were giving them fuel to feed their family and save their life. So it had nothing to do with shame, which to me, it made the whole thing make clear. Like, how does that? It was a contradiction there if you were to just read it on face value, but it just
Mm-hmm.
clarified a lot, which compels me to go back and abide more, because the stuff that I'm learning is just, I need it. I need to know that stuff.
Yeah, and that's
So
the beautiful description of abiding is a relationship. You've talked about your journal is just relationship, dialogue back and forth, but that when you come across something and you say, well, I'm not sure exactly what that is, or wait a minute, I'm not sure that makes sense to me, and then you start going deeper, um, and by the way, that's why he says the Holy Spirit will guide you into truth. well, you need to have a passion for truth. is and like you described it as, wait a minute, I'm not sure about this. Now, you didn't know the answer, but you said, I'm going to go pursue it with the one that knows the answer.
Right.
And then you get it, and you're just like, wow, look at this, and what a great illustration of abiding. And we can tell, by the way, that you enjoy it to the full, so it's not a duty, it's a privilege, and so we want to pick up again our next session. And you made a statement that we want to pursue further. Is you said it made my path straight. We would like to pursue that a little bit, Dom. Tell us about some examples of that, and what's the difference between wandering around and starting to have God actually direct your steps. And so we want to come back to that, because we know it's really meant a lot to you, and we'd love for you to share with the audience exactly what does that look like, because that's really everybody's question is that really possible?
and is that for me too?
And how does that actually work? And of course you said it starts with the relationship. And we pray that everybody would have the joy that you can see on Dom's face or hear in his voice. Is he has great joy just in that alone. And by the way, God does too. So Dom, thank you so much, and we want to pick it up next week and do a little bit more on this. And Kathy, we're excited to have him return.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for joining us, Dom. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And if you have any questions, send them in at questions@afjministry.com, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.